The moon hung like a pale eye above the forest, spilling silver light over the rooftops of the pack village. Children chased one another under its glow, their laughter carrying through the night, while older wolves shifted easily, proudly, their howls echoing across the valley. But she sat apart, her knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight, as if she could hide the hollow ache inside her. While others shifted effortlessly, her wolf had never answered, not once in 16 years. "Cursed," whispered the villagers, a burden to the pack, a girl without a wolf. Their words clung to her skin like frost. She had grown used to lowered glances, mocking laughter, and pitying smiles, yet tonight the loneliness pressed harder than ever. She tilted her head toward the moon, letting its light touch her face. "If I have no wolf, then what am I?" Her heart whispered the question she dared not speak aloud. A group of boys passed near the clearing. One sneered, loud enough for her to hear, "Don't waste your breath, girl. The moon doesn't answer the broken." Their laughter stung sharper than claws. She bit her lip, tasting blood, refusing to cry. The moonlight blurred as her vision swam. Somewhere deep inside, in the place she could never reach, something stirred faintly, like a heartbeat muffled behind stone walls. But as quickly as it came, it vanished, leaving her emptier than before. The villagers moved on. Silence fell, her breath hitched, and she whispered to the night, voice trembling, "One day, I'll prove them wrong." The forest gave no reply, only the distant howl of a wolf carried on the wind strong, commanding, destined for greatness. A sound that both comforted and tormented her, because she knew it was a future she could never share. Or so they all believed. Morning light spilled across the training fields, golden on the dew-soaked grass. Warriors sparred, their bodies blurring between human and wolf, sweat mixing with the metallic scent of sharpened blades. The crack of fists and the growl of wolves created a symphony of power, and at the very edge of it all stood the girl they mocked. "Shift," the instructor barked, again, her body trembled with effort. She closed her eyes, straining to feel what everyone else seemed born knowing the call of her wolf. Her nails dug into her palms. She imagined claws bursting forth, bones reshaping, power rushing through her veins. Nothing. A ripple of laughter spread through the training ground, still useless. Someone jeered. Why even bother bringing her here? Heat scorched her cheeks. She forced herself upright, dust sticking to her skin. I can try again, try." A girl her age smirked, golden hair glinting like a halo of cruelty. "You've been trying for years. Maybe the moon goddess just forgot about you." The laughter grew louder, crueler, feeding on itself. Her chest tightened. She wanted the earth to swallow her whole, but instead she squared her shoulders, though her voice shook. "One day, you'll regret those words." Mockery met her defiance, the instructor sighed, dismissive. "Enough, step aside before you embarrass us further." She obeyed, retreating to the sidelines. Her hands trembled as she clasped them behind her back, hiding the sting of rejection. Yet her gaze wandered, almost against her will, toward the figure standing across the grounds. The new Alpha! He trained with effortless precision, every movement radiating dominance. His wolf shimmered just beneath his skin, power rolling off him in waves that made others lower their eyes. But when his gaze flicked toward her, cold and assessing, her breath caught. For an instant, the world stilled, his eyes, dark, unreadable, locked with hers. Heat bloomed low in her chest, fierce and terrifying. It felt like recognition, like destiny whispering her name. But then, just as swiftly, his gaze slid past her as if she were nothing. The moment shattered. The laughter of her peers returned, crueler now, because somehow their ridicule felt lighter than the crushing weight of the Alpha's indifference. And deep inside, beneath the ache of failure, a whisper echoed once more. One day, something will break. The council hall was overflowing. Candles flickered against stone walls, shadows stretching long as the pack gathered for judgment. She stood at the very center, the heat of dozens of eyes searing her skin. The murmurs were merciless. She's almost 17 and still no wolf. A disgrace. Why must we waste food and training on her? Her fingers knotted into her skirt, but she kept her chin lifted. If she bowed her head, they would win. An elder rose, his robe dragging across the floor as he circled her. His voice carried, rough with age but sharp with authority. "We have tested her again and again. There is no wolf within this girl." A gasp rippled through the hall. Mothers shielded their children's eyes as if her weakness might be contagious. Fathers shook their heads, muttering. Her stomach twisted. She wanted to vanish, to sink into the ground. The elder's gaze hardened. From this day forth, you are stripped of warrior training. You will not stand among your peers. You will be branded what you are, useless. The word cracked through the chamber like a whip. She flinched as though struck, but forced her eyes to remain steady. I am not useless, she whispered, voice trembling but unbroken. Laughter answered her, not useless. Another elder sneered. Then prove it. Shift now, before your alpha, before the goddess's fire. Show us your worth. All eyes turned to her, heavy, suffocating. She closed her eyes, pleading silently with the part of her that never answered. Her heart hammered, body shaking as she tried to call forth claws, fangs, anything. Nothing came. Her knees nearly buckled under the weight of silence that followed. Then, somewhere in the crowd, she heard a sound that cut deeper than the rest, her mother's sob, muffled against her father's chest. They couldn't even look at her. Shame burned hotter than fire. The elder raised his hand. Let it be known to all, this girl will never bear the strength of a wolf. She is an outcast within her own bloodline, a burden. The decree echoed in her ears, and when she dared to lift her gaze, she saw him. The alpha, standing tall at the edge of the hall, his face unreadable, his eyes dark as the storm. For a heartbeat, she thought she saw anger there, not at her, but at the cruelty in the room. Then he turned away. The crowd's laughter returned, drowning her, branding her with every sneer and every whispered curse. She stood frozen in the center, her chest breaking apart piece by piece, but her spirit refusing to shatter. Useless, outcast, nothing. The words echoed inside her skull as the night closed around her like a cage. The night air was heavy when she stumbled out of the council hall. Torches hissed in the damp, their flames bending against the wind, as if the goddess herself had turned away. The laughter of the pack still rang in her ears, cruel and unrelenting. She wrapped her arms around herself and walked quickly, fighting back the tears burning her eyes. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Not out here, not now, but fate had no mercy. A shadow detached itself from the far wall, tall and commanding. His presence struck her like a blow, the alpha. He stood with arms crossed, his silhouette framed by the flicker of firelight. Power clung to him, thick in the air, making even the night seem to bow. His wolf simmered beneath the surface, restrained yet restless, as though it waited for a challenge. She froze, her chest tightened. She wanted to look away, but his gaze pinned her in place. His eyes, cold, unreadable, traveled over her, as if weighing every ounce of weakness the elders had branded upon her. And yet, for a heartbeat, something else flickered there. A spark that made her breath catch, recognition. She felt it deep in her bones, in the burning pull between them, a heat that surged like fire through her veins. The stories whispered of it, the unshakable bond destined by the moon goddess, the mate pull. Her lips parted, her heart leaping to hope, could it be, but just as quickly the flicker was gone. His expression hardened, colder than before. He looked at her not as a destined mate, but as if she were nothing. Go home, he said, his voice low, threaded with command. You don't belong here. The words cut sharper than claws. She swallowed hard, forcing her voice steady even as it trembled. One day I'll prove you wrong. A muscle ticked in his jaw. For an instant she thought he might answer, but he turned his head away, dismissing her entirely. The rejection wasn't spoken aloud, not yet, but she felt it all the same. Her chest burned as she stepped back into the shadows, carrying the weight of his cold eyes. And still, that dangerous spark lingered in her heart, whispering of a fate neither of them could deny forever. The next evening, the pack house buzzed with celebration. Warriors drank and boasted of victories past, laughter and music spilling from open windows into the courtyard. She lingered at the edge, invisible as always, carrying a tray of food for the elders. Her footsteps were soft, her head bowed, but her ears caught what they were not meant to hear. Inside the council chamber, voices murmured low, tense. She should never have been born, one elder hissed. The blood runs thin in her line. Perhaps it is better if it dies out altogether. Another voice, quieter, more hesitant, careful. You know whose child she is. there are whispers that her grandmother carried the blood of the silver wolves. The air seemed to still, her heart slammed against her ribs. Silver wolves, the lost lineage spoken only in half-forgotten tales, wolves touched by the goddess, wielding power so pure it was said to rival the alphas themselves. But that line was destroyed generations ago, a third elder argued, wiped from the earth. Perhaps not completely, the second voice replied, perhaps the girl's weakness is not a curse, but a lock, a power sealed until the right moment. The scrape of a chair echoed sharply. Say no more. If the alpha hears such nonsense, it will only cause unrest. She is weak, that is all. Let it stay buried. Silence followed, then the thud of footsteps. She hurried back into the shadows, breath ragged, before the door opened. The elders passed, robes brushing the floor, faces grim and unreadable. They never noticed her standing in the alcove, hidden by the dark. Her hands trembled around the tray, her grandmother, the silver wolves. A power locked away, the words spun inside her like wildfire, too heavy to carry and too dangerous to share. She stumbled outside, gulping the night air, her mind racing. Could it be true? Was she not broken? But something else entirely. A whisper stirred inside her, faint but certain, like the echo of a voice long buried. You are more than they know. She pressed her hands to her chest, her heart thundering. For the first time in her life, doubt cracked against despair. Maybe she wasn't useless. Maybe her wolf wasn't gone. Just waiting, but waiting for what? The question burned as the celebration roared on around her, a hollow song in the night. The forest was restless that night. She slipped away from the noise of the pack house, the echoes of laughter and music chasing her into the trees. The moonlight dappled the ground, painting silver paths between the roots, guiding her deeper into solitude. She needed quiet. She needed to breathe, but the silence that fell was too sharp, too watchful. A twig snapped, her head jerked up. Shadows shifted between the trees, too many, moving too fast, rogues. Her pulse spiked. She backed away, heart slamming, when a roar split the night. A massive wolf burst through the undergrowth, fur dark as storm clouds, eyes blazing with fire. The alpha. He struck like lightning, tearing into the rogues with brutal precision. Blood and snarls filled the night as he ripped one down another, then turned to face the third, but this one was quicker, more cunning, circling behind him with bared teeth. Behind you, the words tore from her throat before she could think. The alpha spun, but too late. The rogue lunged, claws flashing for his throat. She moved without thought. A stone lay near her feet. She seized it and hurled it with every ounce of strength she had. It struck the rogue's skull with a crack. The beast staggered, stunned. The alpha finished it in a blur of claws and fury. Silence fell. The clearing reeked of iron and death. She stood frozen, chest heaving, the stone still warm in her hand. Then his eyes found her. He shifted, body shimmering back into human form, bare-chested and blood. Streaked beneath the moonlight. His breathing was harsh, but his gaze burned into her. You should not be here. He growled, voice rough, still laced with the echo of his wolf. Her hands shook. You would have been killed. His eyes narrowed, but not with anger, with something else, confusion. A flicker of recognition, the same dangerous spark she had felt before. He stepped closer, and the world seemed to tilt. For a heartbeat, the air between them throbbed with heat, with something ancient and unbreakable. His wolf surged, snarling not with rage but with yearning. And then, impossibly, he stilled. You. His voice dropped low, almost disbelieving. Why does my wolf, calm in your presence? She had no answer. She could only stand there, trembling, as the fire in his eyes warred with the ice in his expression. The silence between them screamed louder than words. And just when she thought he might reach for her, he turned away. Go home, he ordered, his back rigid, before you make me regret letting you live. Her chest ached, but the spark he had felt, she had felt it too. It could not be denied forever. The moon was high when the pack gathered in the courtyard. Torches lined the stone steps, flames dancing in the cold night wind. She kept to the edges, clutching her cloak, her pulse unsteady. But his eyes found her anyway. The alpha stood at the center, commanding as ever, his presence drawing every gaze like iron to a magnet. Yet when his eyes met hers, the air shifted. She felt it instantly, the invisible thread between them tightening, the mate bond pulling with a force that nearly stole her breath. Her heart leapt. Maybe, just maybe, Alpha. A voice rang out from the crowd, sly and cruel. Why does she linger here still, a wolfless girl among warriors? She stains the pack with her weakness. Laughter rippled, her face burned, shame pressing like a weight against her chest. She wanted to disappear. But before she could retreat, the Alpha's voice cut through the noise. She does not belong among warriors, he said coldly, the words pierced like claws. Her breath hitched, but he didn't stop. His jaw was tight, his eyes locked on hers, and she knew he felt it too. The bond, the fire, yet he denied it. My Luna, he continued, voice iron, will be strong, worthy, a leader who can protect this pack, not. His gaze hardened, and she felt the rejection burn through every vein. Not a girl with no wolf. The crowd gasped, the sneers turned to grins of triumph, her chest caved inward. It was as though the invisible thread between them had been set alight, burning, searing, tearing her apart from the inside. She staggered back, clutching her chest. The mate bond was supposed to be a blessing, unbreakable, but when rejected, it became agony. His eyes flickered, just for a heartbeat, with something that looked like pain. But he did not falter. He turned away, shoulders stiff, sealing her fate. The world blurred around her. Laughter, whispers, pity, all of it mixed into a dull roar. She stumbled into the night, tears blinding her, the fire of rejection tearing her heart to shreds. Somewhere in the darkness, her wolf stirred faintly, clawing against chains she couldn't see. The ache in her chest was unbearable, but a whisper cut through the pain. You are not broken. You are not done. She fell to her knees in the cold grass, gasping, the echo of his rejection still searing her soul. And above her, the moon watched, silent and merciless. The days after the rejection blurred into a fog of pain. She moved like a ghost through the pack house, avoiding the eyes that followed her, some mocking, some pitying, none kind. But not everyone ignored her. Selene, the Alpha's favored she, wolf, beautiful, cunning, with eyes that glimmered like ice under firelight. She had always carried herself as if she already wore the Luna's crown. Now, with the Alpha's public rejection still fresh, Selene's smile grew sharper. You poor thing, she cooed one morning, her voice dripping false sweetness. It must sting, being unwanted. Perhaps you should leave before you embarrass yourself further. The words cut, but she stayed silent. That only made Selene's smile widen. Later that evening, Selene's trap was set. A summons came, a guard delivering word that the Alpha requested her presence in the training yard. Her heart leapt, foolish hope sparking despite the ache. Maybe he regretted the rejection. Maybe he wanted to explain. She followed the summons into the night. The yard was empty, silent save for the rustle of leaves. Then shadows shifted. Figures stepped out, circling her young wolves, Selene's loyal admirers. Their grins were sharp, their eyes hungry for cruelty. It's true, one sneered. The Alpha's wolf stirs for her. Pathetic, isn't it? A wolfless mate. The others laughed. A hand shoved her shoulder, sending her stumbling. Another grabbed her cloak, tearing the fabric. Panic rose in her throat. She spun, searching for escape, but Selene emerged from the shadows, elegant as a queen, lips curved in a triumphant smile. You don't belong here, Selene said softly, each word laced with venom. You will never be Luna. You will never even be his equal. The Alpha deserves strength, and you're nothing but a weakness. The words struck harder than the jeers. Her throat closed, shame burning her skin. But deep inside, beneath the pain, something stirred. A flicker, a whisper of defiance. Her eyes lifted, meeting Selene's cold gaze. The bond chose me. She whispered, voice trembling but steady, not you. For a heartbeat, Selene's mask cracked, fury flashing in her perfect features. Then claws tore across her cheek. Pain flared hot, blood dripping warm down her face. Gasps rang out from the circling wolves, but Selene only smiled, satisfied. Run back to your shadows, little girl, Selene hissed. Before I finish what he could not. Her knees trembled, but she did not fall. With her heart bleeding and her cheek stinging, she turned away, holding onto the only truth she had left. The bond was real. And one day, it would destroy Selene. The night was restless. She lay awake in her small, drafty room, Selene's claw mark burning against her cheek. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the rivals smirk, heard the cruel laughter of those who circled her. Shame pressed heavy on her chest, but beneath it, a strange heat simmered. Something inside her was changing. Unable to bear the walls pressing in, she slipped outside, feet carrying her into the woods. The forest was alive with whispers, the soft creak of branches, the distant hoot of an owl. Above, the moon swam full and silver, spilling light that made the ground shimmer. She tilted her face upward, breath catching. All her life she had prayed to the moon for answers, for belonging. Tonight, the air pulsed with something different. Her body trembled. Her pulse raced not with fear, but with power. She stumbled to her knees in the clearing, clutching the earth. Her breath came ragged as silver light poured from the moon, weaving around her like mist. Her skin prickled. Her veins hummed as if touched by lightning. What is happening to me?" she whispered, voice breaking. The answer came not in words, but in sensation, a surge from within. It was not a wolf's howl, not the familiar shift others spoke of. It was older, wilder, and far more terrifying. Her body glowed faintly, a silvery aura spilling from her skin. The grass beneath her hands shimmered. Leaves stirred though no wind passed. The forest seemed to bow around her, acknowledging something she had never known was hers. But she wasn't alone. A twig snapped. Laughter hushed. She looked up to see shadows at the tree-line, Selene's followers, eyes wide with fear. They had followed to gloat, but now they shrank back as if they'd seen a ghost. She's cursed, one whispered. That light, no wolf shines like that. Another muttered, voice trembling. The group scattered, their fear sharper than any blade. Left alone in the glowing silence, she sank back on her heels, chest heaving. Her aura dimmed, fading until only the moon remained. She pressed a trembling hand to her cheek, feeling the drying line of Selene's claw. Only now, the wound glowed faintly, already healing. Tears welled in her eyes not from pain, but from the dawning realization. She was not powerless, not useless. Something in her blood carried a secret far older than the pack's judgment. The moon had answered, and with that answer came danger. The whispers spread faster than wildfire. By morning, the entire pack had heard of the silver light in the forest. Some said it was a blessing, others spat the word curse. Wherever she walked, eyes followed her, filled with suspicion, fear, and quiet hatred. Selene made sure of it, the rival Luna. In waiting wove her poison with precision. She whispered to the elders, tugged on the ears of warriors, fanned the embers of fear until they became flames. No wolf glows like that. She hissed, feigning worry. What if she's a danger to us all? The trap was set. That night, when the moon was half shadowed, guards burst into her small chamber. Their hands were rough, their expressions grim. She barely had time to stand before they shackled her wrists. What's happening?" Her voice cracked, panic flooding her chest. "You've been accused of treachery." One of them growled, her stomach dropped. "Treachery, I've done nothing," but her words drowned under their silence. They dragged her through the pack house, past the rows of curious, hungry eyes. Wolves she had known since childhood sneered, muttered, and spat at her feet. At the far end of the hall, the alpha sat in judgment, his expression unreadable. His broad shoulders were tense, his jaw clenched, and his eyes, those cold amber eyes, burned as they landed on her. Selene stood just a few steps away, head bowed in false sorrow. She looked every inch the grieving, loyal wolf. Her voice broke with rehearsed tremors. She was seen in the forest last night, Selene declared, tears glistening that were anything but real. The rogues attacked us only hours later. Can it be a coincidence? The silver aura she carries. It called them. Gasps filled the hall. The crowd pressed closer. The accusation hit like a blade to her chest. "That's a lie," she cried, struggling against the guards. "I've never," her voice broke. No one listened. Selene's hand brushed against the alpha's arm, her act perfect. For the safety of the pack, she must be punished, before her curse destroys us all. The hall erupted in snarls of agreement, the noise pounding in her skull, and in the eye of the storm, The Alpha's stare held her captive. His gaze flickered a war between duty and something else, something hidden. Yet when he rose, the hall fell silent. Her heart raced. Would he believe her or condemn her? The judgment stone gleamed beneath the moonlight, its surface streaked with centuries of blood, a place where traitors met their end. Shackled and trembling, she was forced to her knees before it, the crowd pressing in with eager, merciless eyes. The Alpha stood above, a dark figure cut against the silver night. His voice was low, measured, and heavy with authority. "You stand accused of treachery. Do you deny it?" Her throat tightened. "I deny it with every breath in me. I have done nothing but suffer under this pack's cruelty, and still I would never betray it." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some scoffed, others shifted uneasily. Selene, standing poised at the Alpha's side, pressed her lips into a mask of sorrow, though her eyes gleamed with victory. "Lies," she whispered loud enough for all to hear. She glowed like a beacon, and the rogues came. "That power isn't ours. It's corruption." The pack roared in agreement, but then a new sound rose, a howl, low, ferocious, not from within the crowd, but from the shadows beyond the trees. The rogues, dozens poured into the clearing, eyes blazing, fangs flashing. Panic erupted. Wolves shifted around her, the air filled with snarls and the stench of blood. In the chaos, the guards who held her faltered. The Alpha barked commands, his presence a wall of steel as he threw himself into the fray. But even he staggered under the sheer force of the ambush. She should have run, she should have hidden, but the moment his body hit the ground, claws raking his side, something inside her broke loose. No, silver fire erupted from her skin, flooding the night with light so bright even the rogues reeled. Her shackles shattered like glass. The aura she had feared now answered her call, wrapping her in moonlight's armor. She leapt to the Alpha's side, hands glowing as she pressed them against his wound. The bleeding slowed, his wolf stilled, his eyes snapped open, locking onto hers in shock and recognition. The mate bond flared like wildfire. In her glow the rogues faltered. Wolves rallied behind her, fear turning to awe as they tore their enemies apart. One by one the rogues fell until silence swallowed the clearing, and there she stood, bathed in silver, her hand still against the Alpha's chest. His voice, rough and breaking, cut through the quiet. "You." His fingers curled around her wrist. "You are mine." Gasps echoed from every corner. The girl they called useless, revealed as Luna, the battlefield was quiet now. Only the scent of blood and smoke lingered, mixing with the sweet chill of moonlight. The rogues were gone, scattered or dead, their shadows no longer haunting the packlands, but the silence carried something else reverence. Every eye turned toward her, the girl once mocked, once shoved aside, once branded useless. Now she stood tall in the center of the clearing, the Alpha's hand clasped firmly in hers. Her aura still shimmered faintly, silver threads of power that ebbed with the moon's glow. No one dared to laugh, no one dared to whisper. The elders bowed their heads first, shame etching their lined faces. Then the warriors lowered their gazes one by one, until the entire pack knelt in a wave of reluctant surrender. She felt the weight of it, not triumph, not vengeance, but justice. For the girl who had cried alone, for every wound that had scarred her heart, this moment was not about their apologies. It was about her finally seeing herself. The Alpha's voice broke the hush, deep and resonant. "You called her useless, you spat on her name, yet tonight she saved every one of you." His hand tightened around hers, pulling her closer. "This woman is my mate, my Luna. The moon chose her, and I will honor her all my days." The words struck like thunder. Selene, pale and trembling at the edges of the crowd, tried to protest, but the pack turned on her with snarls and accusing glares. Her schemes had failed. No amount of venom could poison the truth revealed beneath the moon. For the first time, the heroine looked upon her rival without fear. Not with anger, not with hate, but with quiet strength. Selene had tried to break her. Instead, she had forged her into steel. The Alpha guided her onto the ancient stone, not as a prisoner, but as a queen. The moon crowned her with light, bathing her in radiance as the pack bowed. Her heart swelled, tears stinging her lashes not from pain, but from release. She had been mocked. She had been broken, but she was not useless. She was unbreakable, and with the Alpha by her side, her future was no longer a question mark etched in shadows. It was a promise written in silver light. The pack howled as one, voices carrying her name into the night sky, not as an outcast, but as their Luna.